recognition proudly confers its Medal of Merit upon the Supreme Court of Kenya in recognition of its exemplary leadership in advancing transformative jurisprudence, upholding constitutional supremacy, and fortifying democratic governance across Africa since its establishment under the 2010 Kenyan Constitution. The court, which exercises both original and appellate jurisdiction, comprises of judges who are appointed from amongst persons who have at least 15 years experience as superior court judges, or at least 15 years experience as distinguished academic, judicial officer, legal practitioner, or such experience in other related legal fields. Since its inaugural sitting on the 26th of October 2011, the Supreme Court has substantively managed to usher in a new era of justice and largely met the people's expectations of justice, of access to the courts as institutions of the people and for the people. Chief Justice Mutanga's words at the inauguration of the court have defined what the Supreme Court of Kenya has evolved to be and shows by its being honored. The Chief Justice said inter alia that the Supreme Court will be a court, quote, that fortifies the doctrine of equality before the law, one that eschews artificial hierarchy, so that the justice of so that the juice of justice can flow freely. A Supreme Court that is easy on its disposition and mean, but rigorous in its jurisprudence. A court that its following decisions and actions, among others, show: 1. The 2012 Advisory Opinion on Progressive Gender Representation to Thirds Principle, 2012 EKLR. 2. The Rai versus Rai case, where the Supreme Court of Kenya for the very first time discussed robustly the jurisprudence of social justice as a practical tool for the transformation of Kenya's constitutional order. 3. The decision to drop out of the judges wearing the traditional robes that has a colonial reference to a more African-oriented dressing, attire, and climate-friendly, without the wigs and cufflinks. 4. Gatura Peter Munya versus Dixon Nwanda Kitinji and 2 others. Petition number 2B of 2014, where the Supreme Court addressed the issues of electoral management and cautioned that, quote, nothing could imperil our democracy more than an electoral agency that is contaminated by bias, infected with incompetence, and affected by virus of minimal public accountability, end quote. This case was an avoidance of the technicality route to dealing with electoral disputes that was akin to bowing to the establishment's capture of the electoral agency. 5. That's the last but one. In the Raila Omolo Odinga versus Uhuru Kenyatta and others presidential election petition number of 2017, in which the Supreme Court, in a landmark groundbreaking decision uncharacteristic of the past presidential and high-ranking electoral disputes decisions ruled that the electoral agency had failed to discharge the burden that it had undertaken. It is in its management, rallying the electoral results and tallying the electoral results and declaring declarations in accordance to the principle and in adherence to its duty as prescribed by the Constitution. Consequently, the Supreme Court nullified the electoral victory for the first time of a sitting president in Kenya. And finally, the above cases preceded the most recent and most defining decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya. In the wake of Kenya's August 9, 2022 general elections, the Supreme Court confronted unprecedented challenges to the presidential result, consolidating petitions, including presidential election petition numbers E001 through E008, filed by Raila Odinga and others against William Ruto's declaration as president-elect. Amid heightened public scrutiny and allegations of electoral irregularities, the court, presided over by Chief Justice Martha Koome and comprising Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Justice Isaac Linaola, Justice Smoking Wanjala, and Justice Muhammad Ibrahim, as well as Justice Njoki Ndugu and Justice William Uko, demonstrated unwavering independence, transparency, and efficiency, adhering strictly to the 7-day constitutional timeline for resolution. Through rigorous hearings, expert testimonies, and meticulous examination of technological and procedural issues, from voter turnouts, discrepancies, to form transmission flaws, the bench delivered a unanimous 161-page judgment on September 5, 2022, dismissing the petitions and affirming Ruto's victory by a margin exceeding 50% plus one threshold. This 2022 landmark adjudication not only reinforced Kenya's constitutional framework, but also set a gold standard for judicial excellence in Africa, fostering public trust in electoral justice and averting potential instability. The court's balanced approach, emphasizing evidence-based reasoning over political pressures, has inspired judiciaries continent-wide, advancing good governance and the peaceful transfer of power. The African Bar Association honors the Supreme Court of Kenya's legacy of principled jurisprudence, a pillar of democratic resilience. We will now invite Justice Isaac Linaola to receive this award.
My lords, my ladies, excellencies, on behalf of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, the judges of the court, and the judiciary of Kenya, let me thank you very much for this award. The African Bar Association, recognizing the work of my court and the work of my colleagues, just tells us that we must continue being independent, continue being strong, continue being resilient, and continue being impartial, so that we must remain a beacon, not just for the African judiciaries, but also for the whole world. It looks up to us as Africans to remain independent and also to say that Africans are indeed beyond compromise and the judges are beyond compromise in Africa, and that is why I'm here to say thank you, be strong, be resilient, see you next time, and please do allow me to say this. Yesterday, we buried a Pan-Africanist, Raila Amolo Odinga, whose election in 2017 as President of Kenya was whose petition was allowed in 2017 by the Supreme Court of Kenya, and we nullified the president's election on Raila Odinga's petition. We buried him yesterday, and I come also to say, this morning I listened to 2 songs by the band. The first one was Malaika by Fadil Williams and rendition by Mario Makeba. The second song, which was sung throughout Kenya for the last 3 days, was the song Jamaica Farewell by Harry Belafonte. I was touched because that is the song Kenya sang all the days that we buried Raila Odinga. In conclusion, I thank you again for the honor given to the Supreme Court of Kenya, and I'll carry your message to my court, to my Chief Justice, and to you, Ghanaians, your brothers and sisters, and to you, Nigerians, your brothers and sisters. If Kenya could nullify a president's election, why can't you if there is theft of elections in your country? Thank you.